this OT short. A couple of apologies again really. Firstly, we had a bit of a slap on the wrist from some of the ladies, directed at my colleague Rab, who's not here, so I will be speaking to him when he gets back. We are to stop saying okay guys and guys, because it's guys and gals, and there are several gals, ladies, the fairer sex, who are tuning in, which is great. So he will start referring to guys and girls, not just guys. So we'll correct that, and apologies if that's caused any offence. Second point is, we're bringing this early. I'm recording this early actually because Steve is jetting off with Darren and one of the other sort of regulars to film some hunting in Spain, which we will bring you in the coming weeks, month-ish. So he's off there to sunnier climes, although it's not been very nice in Spain, so he might get washed away, and that's terrible. I'm not joking about that because that's pretty horrendous. But anyway, he's going to do that, so Steve's away. Rab is back down in Argyll. He had to shoot off early this week because there was a bit of a problem with some red deer on some arable fields near one of the areas we manage. And I'm heading off to a remote cottage in Perth, so this one we're producing in advance. So what are we going to bring you? Well, we're going to bring you a clip, a stalking clip, which is going to follow shortly. I want to cover a couple of questions, which is great because the questions keep coming in. That's fantastic, thank you. Rab's been unable to do the foxing clip we wanted to do simply because he's had to shoot off and deal with the situation down there, and the night previously when he was going to do it, we've got this horrible warm weather at the moment in southwest Scotland, which is creating a lot of, it's dreek in Scottish terms, which means misty, low cloud, drizzly, and that's about the worst conditions you can get for foxing at night because none of the optics work particularly well, so we had to sack that off. So we will bring you that, but there'll be a slight delay on that coming to you, which is work orientated and weather orientated. So that's it, it's a short, I've got to stop rambling. So without further ado, as they say, here you go with a stalking clip. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, this week's show, Graham and I are back up at Kinnaird Estate. Work commitments, clients get in the way, weather, so we never actually got around to being out on the hill and filming some of the rutting activity. It's been quite spectacular this year. It's been a very, very good red rut. The weather was cold at the right times, and it's been a traditional good rut, and when they've been rutting hard. So we've had a period of about 3 weeks where they've just been at it almost every day. Last year was a bit of a strange one because of the warm weather, but this year it's been very good. We did actually manage to film a stag that's been down in one of the lower fields on the sort of central pasture where the broadleaf woodland is, holding hind, so we've got quite a nice shot of that camera. But Graham and I, unfortunately, the only day we got out to film was basically fairly brief sessions, evening and morning, right at the end of the beginning of the hinds. So for the first session, morning session, out on just on the edge of the hill actually, kind of where our broadleaf woodland finishes. Got into a kind of small group, a couple of novice stags, some hinds. That involved a crawl across quite an open patch of where the heather's been flailed off for the grouse. So quite an open patch to get across. It was quite tricky. Unfortunately, Graham had to kind of wait behind. I couldn't really have him trying to drag a tripod and a camera across a 100-yard patch of clear ground, so he kind of held back. So we unfortunately don't get the actual shot on camera. You just see the after shot, if you like, where we're just recovering it. Okay, we've got a yearling hind here. We're basically right on the edge of a restock site. We're going to plant this up. We're going to film some of the trees coming out. They're nearly finished. We've got a group of deer coming out of the trees, and we've just managed to get round just on the edge of the hill and used a bit of dead ground, managed to get into them. That was the morning, and then the plan was recover that, get back in, have a bit of breakfast and then go out again in the afternoon and see what we could find in the afternoon. We have another kind of fairly large woodland creation scheme going on at Kinnaird. Basically thinned out some really old conifers in one of the blocks which Mike used to use, well, used a lot for one of his sort of game areas. He got a pen in there. The conifers have come out, broadleaf have been left in, and then that's going to be restructured and replanted over the course of the next 12 months, and then that planting is going to extend up the hill, so actually creating a new woodland on the edge of that. So clearly there's a fair bit of pressure on me to get in there and just see what the situation is. Re deer, we get a lot of deer coming off the hill and walking down through this onto the pasture fields at the bottom. Certainly the big stag had been holding some hinds down there, so I wanted to go and have a look at that and see what was going on with that. Stag and hinds have come out into the field kind of in front of us, so we've got nice footage of the stag in question, roaring a little bit. Still roaring on the hill, coming to the end of it, fizzling out now, but there's still a bit of activity going on. Still waiting for the last of the hinds to come into season. So we kind of bypassed him and then went on through the woodland and got into a group of hinds just in the trees, in the bracken. Fortunately managed to engineer a shot effectively through a couple of trees really, where the hind was nicely broadside to us, got a clear shot. Cameraman was over to my right. I had to wait a little while because the hinds were milling round. He kind of corralled them a little bit, the stag that was with them. So I had to wait for a clear shot because obviously you can't shoot through the hind when there's deer behind it. But anyway, I managed to get a nice little, just a little window of opportunity, and hind shot on camera. I don't know whether Graham got it on camera, but there's a big stag right at the last day, first day of the hinds. There's a big stag still holding hinds just on the right. I couldn't really see it for the bracken. I just see these big antlers rattling about. I don't know whether we've got any of that. We might have. It's quite windy. There's a nice yearling hind. The problem initially was they'd all grouped together. He'd corralled them, so there wasn't really a clear shot. There was deer behind, but fortunately we just got a gap. A yearling hind came into the, no calf, came into the centre of the middle of the trees there. The thing about it was there was no deer in the background, so it was a safe shot. Other than that, they were all corralled and you just couldn't pick any of the youngsters out. I wasn't shooting either a calf or a yearling. Obviously at this time of year we try to leave the mature hinds and be selective about what we take, so that's a good animal to shoot. But magnificent stag there, still grumbling and still roaring. We had quite a good rut here actually, some good stags in. Right, I'll go and this is where we need a dog in bracken like this. My dog absolutely wired this evening. I've absolutely, or the other evening, I don't know why. She took some holding back. Wait. She just needed to work and get a job done. I think after 3 weeks up on the hill where we've had to recover a couple of stags that were not shot perfectly, so she's had to work on that. So I think she thinks every time out now she's got a deer to go and recover, so I need to just steady her up a little bit because she's bloody lively. But she is good. She's absolutely mustard on a line, or if we lose a deer she's on it in a flash. Show me. Where is it? Show me. Show me. Girl. Good girl. Okay, so I quite enjoyed watching that myself. It was a while ago. Right, questions. Duncan, presumably short for, and one or two others sent me a message about thermal, and he noted comments about the thermal and looked at stuff I'd done before. I mean, I'm currently using a i3 Infrared EH35, which is an excellent bit of kit, and I would say that's probably hitting market mid price bracket, you know, depending on the model you get, between 1200 and sort of 1600 quid, I think, there or thereabouts. But he was saying, what about entry level thermals? What do you recommend? They're all actually very good these days. I don't think, it's a bit like cars, they don't break down very often, and really it's what you can afford with your budget. Now, I'm always a great man for optics, and I'm talking about rifle scopes now, to say that get the best you can afford, because it's money well spent, buy well, buy once. Less so with thermals. I mean, the more money you spend on a thermal, the more things it will do, the crisper the image, the more you can do with it, you can dial in, you've got possibly longer ranges and a sharper image. But at the end of the day, what's a thermal actually doing? What's it achieving? And for me, it's a heat source. There's something there. Put the thing down, get your binoculars out and identify what you've got. So really, get the best that you can afford, but you do not need to be spending telephone numbers on the all singing, all dancing, latest bit of thermal kit. There are some very good budget thermals out there. We'll actually maybe do a little bit of review on the sort of budget thermals, if you like, because we've done it on scope, so we should do it on thermal, so we'll bring you that. So really, for around about 300 or 400 quid entry level, you can get yourself a thermal, which will be perfectly functional, and it will give you a blob, a blur, something in low light to tell you that there's something there. And the more you spend, the sharper definition that blob will be. But ultimately, what else do you want it to do? So Duncan said, what do I recommend? Well, speak to people that know. So for a start off, the guys at Talon Gear, Rab, he'll not give you any bullshit. They supply thermal, so he'll tell you honestly what he thinks, and he'll give you the price bracket. So Talon Gear would help. But I would strongly urge you to go to one of the shows, get hands on, talk to the guys, have a look through the thing, look at the prices, compare, and then make a decision. Probably the best, I'm wearing a clue actually, probably the best, and you're coming into stalking show season as we get around the corner into the new year. So the first big one's probably the NEC at Birmingham, but with undoubtedly the best actual stalking show is the stalking show. So Staffordshire, get down there, that's in April. All the suppliers will be there, and you can get hands on the kit and have a look at it. So that, if you want my honest opinion and you're not desperately going to rush off and buy something, speak to some of the guys, some of the specialist optics suppliers if you need to get one straight away for some advice. Get hands on and have a look if you can. Go into the facility or the shop. You certainly use the guys at Talon Gear. Again, you'll get good advice. You don't necessarily have to buy from them, but they'll give you good advice. And they're actually a good price as well. So that's the plug out of the way for them. But if you can wait, go to one of the shows and have a look at all, and they'll all be there, and all be there, so you'll be able to look at everything. But there's no issue with getting a budget budget thermal. I mean, why do I use the infrared? I like the infrared. The one I'm using is really good. So for the mid-range, it's probably the best on the market, I think, because it's functional. And I will be doing a longer-term review of that because I've been using it now for about 6 months. So again, that will be coming up in the coming weeks. And then just to follow up from, we've done quite a little bit on Gralloch in the level 2 lately. So let's just expand on that a little bit, because actually one of the guys, Will, that's coming down to do some level 2 work with us, I'm going down to Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire for a fortnight at the end of this month, crossover November and November and December, so last week November, beginning of December, to do specifically that level 2 training. And one of the guys said, Will said, what do I need to do? What do I need to prepare? Well, it's a whole program in its own, this, but just in a nutshell. So if you're thinking about going to do, or you're going to meet an AW for training or whatever, what do you want to do? Well, first of all, try and get some study done, learn the notifiables, learn the examination, lots of good material out there, so that you understand fully what the process is all about. So you can do a lot of groundwork before you go, like you were doing with anything. Don't worry about the whole process. If you're not sure, go for a training stalk. We do lots of that, so we can point you in the right direction, see where you are in terms of being ready. But really a big thing is, don't try and use kit that you're not familiar with. Don't try and do a Gralloch that you're not familiar with. I mean, everybody knows that I'm a great advocate of a suspended Gralloch. Even I don't lift a 20 stone red stag up in the air, by the way. But most of what I'm dealing with are the smaller deer species, so I will always do a suspended Gralloch if I can. That's not to say that you have to do a suspended Gralloch. If you're a type of guy that is familiar with doing a Gralloch or girl, familiar with doing a Gralloch on the floor, do a Gralloch on the floor, because it's what you're comfortable with and it's what you're familiar with. I have had a lot of people coming out with me, level 2 prep, and they've done a suspended Gralloch and they've looked a bit like a one-handed paper hanger. They knew that we're doing, they knew the examination, they knew the process, but they're trying to do something that they're not familiar with and comfortable with, and that's a total mistake. Do what you're familiar with, do what you're comfortable with. So preparation-wise, understand the process, do a little bit of background reading, know all about AFA, who you need to report to, know about the notifiables, know the examination process, know about sort of larders and storage, so all the sort of stuff that you'll be questioned on potentially by the assessor. Do your groundwork. Take your normal stalking kit. Bear in mind that if you're going to do a suspended grollock, for example, in the field, you ain't going to put that deer on the floor and drag it, so there has to be a method of recovering it from the field. If you're doing a field or a hill grollock, which is a partial grollock on the floor, then you're going to drag it. That's all very well. So be prepared and cater for what you need to sufficiently and hygienically do that grollock. I would suggest, as a minimum, disposable gloves, some sort of cleaning method, some sort of cleaning wipes or something for your equipment, clean equipment, and other than that, yourself. But just get on with it, don't worry about it. It's a good idea to speak to the AW if you don't know him or her before you do it anyway, and just ask him, just get a bit of a feel for the day. What also will happen is that if you're on ground that you're unfamiliar with, which an awful lot of, vast majority of people that come to us, they're coming to us, we're not going to them, so they're stalking our ground. What we try to do is get you out for a stalk the day before or the morning before, so you're at least familiar with the ground. But again, you can have a briefing from the AW. We'll explain what the ground, the lay of the land, show you maps, etc., and more or less point you in the right direction. Now, he or she can assist you in so much as they can point you in the right direction if you're not sure of boundaries and all the rest of it. But other than that, the AW is there to monitor and observe, not to take an active part in the assessment and the witnessing. But also bear in mind, it's never a lost cause, because if things go awry and you're not quite up to standard, then the AW can step in and use it as a training stalk. So it's basically a stepping stone to the next stalk when you can correct any issues that may or may not have happened. So advice really is get on with it, a little bit of background, and do what you're comfortable with, do what you're familiar with, stick to that procedure, and you won't go far wrong. Probably one of the best documents are the best practice guides, the deer management of deer stalking best practice guides, which kind of lay down best practice procedure really, which is a good guide. Ultimately, what are we trying to achieve? Preventing a contaminated carcass getting into the food chain. That's it. So no right, no wrong, must be clean, must be hygienic, you must really know what you're doing. So just get on there, get on with it. Okay, so that's it for the short. So I hope it was reasonably short and we haven't rambled. And as always, thanks very much for the questions. Really do keep coming in. I've got a question in today actually. I've got a comment in today which really did make me smile, because Rob and I have been banging on about getting new kit fitted to the trucks. I'm going down to Animal Transit Boxes. I work with those guys and they're fitting some gear in my truck, which is excellent, by the way. You'll have seen it loads of times. New winch and tray, and we're talking about, I was doing a thing for shooting times on grollicking knives, so I got 3 or 4 knives retailing at between £450 each. I'm using a James Penny knife, which is the same sort of money. We got this, we got that, and he said, what about us poor lads that haven't got any money and we're using old kit? Well, I'm going to answer that question in another show because I haven't got enough time to do it here, but it did make me smile. And bear in mind, my answer to that question, and I'm a Yorkshireman, so we have a bit of a reputation for being tight buggers, but I've worked hard all my life, so there's a lot of years behind me. There's not that many in front now, so I'm going to have a little bit of luxury, and it's also quite nice when people send me things to test and they don't always want them back, which is nice. But surprisingly, one of the scopes I first started with, still on one of the rifles, and one of my favoured rifles that I use an awful lot is a Seiko 75. Okay, so it's not all shiny new kit, but it's nice to have shiny new kit. But yeah, I like that question, made me smile. Keep them coming. Right, so it's good night from him in Argyll again, and it's good night from me. As always, keep subscribing please, because that helps us bring the shows to you. And hopefully we should have some nice exciting new content, and we should also have finally hands-on very shortly some of the new Nocpix kit. So that should be coming up. So good night from me. Keep watching as always. Thanks very much.